Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. My wife asked for a break to find herself. That's how she put it. Said she needed space, clarity. At first, I believed her. I wanted to believe her. But then I found out she had cheated with some guy she met online. That's when I knew I had to take matters into my own hands. I'm a 34-year-old man, and this is the story of how my marriage turned into an absolute train wreck. Let me back up a bit and tell you about myself. I was born and raised in the Midwest, the kind of place where people still wave when they pass you on the road and where hard work means something. My dad worked at the same factory for 35 years. Every day, he came home with grease under his fingernails and exhaustion in his eyes. He didn't say much, but when he did, it stuck with me. Roland, he used to tell me, wiping his hands with that same dirty red rag, a man's only got two things in this world, his word and his work ethic. Don't lose either. My mom stayed home with us 4 kids, juggling coupons like they were playing cards and making every dollar of dad's paycheck count. We weren't exactly poor, but anything outside the basics was a luxury. And when we got something nice, even if it was a new coat or a trip to Dairy Queen, it felt like a big deal. I wasn't the smartest kid in school, never was, but I had grit. I showed up. I hustled. Football and wrestling came naturally to me, and I stuck with them all the way through high school. I got a partial scholarship to a state college. That felt like a win. But 2 years in, the construction company I worked for during summers offered me a full-time gig with good pay and benefits. My parents didn't like that I dropped out. I remember the conversation like it was yesterday. "You're walking away from a degree?" my mom asked, disbelief all over her face. "I'm walking toward a job that pays now, Ma," I said. "Real money. Steady work. I'm not throwing that away." By the time I was 21, I was earning more than most of my college buddies. I started in construction at 19 and put in long hours learning everything from laying foundations to managing subcontractors. By 26, I was a site manager. And at 29, I made the biggest leap of my life. I started my own contracting business. That first year, hell, ramen noodles for dinner and maybe 3 hours of sleep a night. But I stuck with it. By year 3, I had 6 guys working under me and projects lined up 6 months in advance. I built it all, every bit of it, with sweat, busted knuckles, and a never-quit attitude. Then came Jenna. I met her 8 years ago at my buddy Dave's barbecue. She was different, sharp, confident, a marketing coordinator for some tech startup. When she talked about her career goals, her green eyes lit up like fireworks. We hit it off right away. "You started your own business without a degree?" she asked, raising an eyebrow, impressed. "Yeah," I said, grinning. "Just figured I'd bet on myself." "That's sexy," she said, and I swear I felt something shift right then. Real-world intelligence is way hotter than some piece of paper on a wall. We dated for 3 years before getting married. Small ceremony, about 50 guests. Her idea, though she later complained it wasn't Instagram-worthy enough. Those first few months? Amazing. We'd come home from work, me covered in dust, her still buzzing from some client pitch, cook dinner together, crash on the couch, and binge-watch whatever show we were into that week. And when we weren't eating or watching something, we couldn't keep our hands off each other. We used to talk about building something meaningful together. Not just a house or a business, but a life, something real. A foundation we could stand on. Fast forward 2 years into our marriage, and Jenna was pregnant with our daughter, Lana. It wasn't exactly planned, but when that test came back positive, we both smiled like idiots. We were nervous, sure, but excited. Jenna had always said she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, at least until our kids were school-aged. I respected that, supported it. I was doing well enough by then to cover all the bills, and we were living comfortably in the 3-bedroom house I'd bought before we even got married, using the down payment I scraped together from a house flip I did on weekends. Important detail. Remember that. Jenna's pregnancy wasn't easy. Morning sickness hit her like clockwork and didn't let up. Her ankles were swollen half the time, and her moods were all over the place. I didn't complain. I did what any man who loves his wife would do. I stepped up, took over all the cooking, hired a cleaning service to come in twice a month, made late-night runs for pickle juice and chocolate ice cream when she got those cravings out of nowhere. "Roland, can you get me chocolate ice cream with sprinkles? And pickle juice, like the really salty kind?" she asked one night, her voice groggy but firm. "Pickle juice and chocolate." I laughed, already grabbing my keys. "You're lucky I love you this much." I even converted the 2nd bedroom into a nursery myself. Painted the walls that soft, buttery yellow she wanted and assembled every piece of baby furniture, crib, changing table, rocking chair by hand. No shortcuts. When Lana was born, Jenna struggled. The joy was there, but so was something darker. Postpartum, they said. Hormones can be brutal, I get that. I took 3 weeks off work right then. That was hard, real hard for a guy running a small business. But I didn't think twice. Family comes first. I handled the night feedings, diaper changes, rocked Lana to sleep so Jenna could get some rest. At the same time, I was checking in on job sites and doing whatever I could to keep my business from collapsing. I ran on fumes for weeks, but I kept going. When I finally returned to work full-time, I hired a part-time mother's helper, someone to come in 3 days a week so Jenna could nap, shower, breathe. I was doing everything I could, and then some. But as Lana got older, our bills grew too. So I started taking on more clients. 12-hour days. Sometimes weekends. I even shifted into more custom home builds, more demanding, but better paying. I wanted to give Jenna the lifestyle she dreamed about. But she kept looking at her phone, always comparing. Her college friends, wives of lawyers, execs, trust fund babies, posting pictures from Bali, Paris, the Amalfi Coast. Luxury vacations twice a year, designer clothes, spa days. And I'd see that look on her face. Must be nice, she'd say sometimes, scrolling through her feed. I kept my head down and worked harder. I thought I was building a life for us. A good life. We weren't living like royalty, but we had a solid home in a great neighborhood, 2 dependable cars, and Jenna never had to check the account balance before buying anything for herself or Lana. I thought we were on the same page. I really did. Then came that Tuesday in November. I remember because we had our first snow that morning. The air was sharp and the ground was slick. I spent an extra hour out at the site making sure the fresh foundation we poured was properly insulated and covered. Cold like that could ruin everything if you weren't careful. After that, I had to deal with a supplier who screwed up the fixtures for the Peterson job, sent the wrong finishes, wrong sizes. Took me another hour to get that sorted. By the time I finally walked through the front door, it was after 7 in the evening. I had been working since 5 in the morning. I walked through the door, boots caked in mud and concrete dust, my shoulders aching from the 12-hour grind. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door and looked up to see Jenna sitting at the kitchen island, eyes glued to her phone. She barely glanced up. Lana, my beautiful little girl 15 months old now, was strapped into her high chair, her mom's sharp green eyes twinkling above cheeks dusted with bits of crushed Cheerios. Her dark hair, like mine, curled slightly at the ends, and the tray in front of her looked like a war zone. She must have been sitting there for a while. "Hey babe, sorry I'm late," I said, already heading toward Lana. The supplier screwed up again. I reached down and started scooping her up. Lana squealed and reached for me with sticky fingers, her face lighting up the second I lifted her into my arms. Her tiny hands immediately went for my beard, giggling like I was the best thing she'd seen all day. Then Jenna spoke, flat and emotionless, not even looking away from her screen. "I need a break to find myself again." I blinked. "What?" I asked, turning my head to her as I shifted Lana to my hip. "Being a mom has stolen my identity," she said, finally looking up from her phone. I stood there in my work boots, still covered in the day's grime, holding our giggling toddler, this tiny human who was everything good in my world, now trying to yank on my beard with sticky hands. My brain tried to make sense of what Jenna had just said. "What do you mean? A break like a vacation? You know, I can take some time off next month after the Miller project wraps up. We can go somewhere, just us." She didn't even blink. "No, Roland. A break from us." I felt my gut twist. "A break from us. I'm not happy anymore," she continued, standing up now, crossing her arms like she was bracing herself for a debate. "You don't meet my emotional needs. I feel like I'm just Roland's wife or Lana's mom now. I need space to figure out who I am." I stared at her. This came from the same woman who hadn't worked in 2 years. The one who had a weekly spa day on my dime, who had a cleaning service come twice a month, who had a mother's helper in the house 3 days a week. I was working 60 to 70 hours a week to give her the life she told me she wanted. And now I was the problem? Is there someone else? I asked before I could stop myself. Her eyes flicked to her phone, just for a second, but that second was all I needed. "Don't be ridiculous," she snapped, standing up straighter, like she was offended by the very idea. "This toxic masculinity thing where you assume I must be cheating just because I need space is exactly the problem. This is why I feel suffocated." She wasn't yelling, but every word hit like a hammer. "You don't understand emotional labor or the mental load of being a mother." I took a slow breath and bounced Lana gently in my arms. She was starting to sense the tension, her giggles fading into uncertainty. "Okay," I said carefully. "Let's talk about this. What does a break look like to you? Where would you go? What about Lana?" Jenna rolled her eyes, like I was a child missing the most obvious thing in the room. Like I was missing the point entirely. "I don't know yet, Roland. That's why I need space to think." "God, you always need everything spelled out like a contract." Her words landed sharp. I stood there, still holding Lana, stunned and unsure what to say next. It wasn't the time to argue, not with our daughter in my arms. so I didn't push it that night. Instead, I focused on Lana. She was still fussy from sitting too long, so I got her cleaned up, made her a proper dinner, real food, not just dry Cheerios scattered across a high-chair tray, and then gave her a warm bath. She calmed down quickly in the water, clinging to her rubber duck while I washed her hair. I dried her off, dressed her in her footy pajamas, and tucked her in with her favorite stuffed elephant. We read 3 of her favorite books twice through the last one, because she kept pointing at the pictures. Her eyelids finally grew heavy, and I sat with her until she fell asleep. When I came back downstairs, Jenna was on the couch, zoned in on some trashy reality show. She didn't look up, didn't say a word. I grabbed a soda from the fridge and headed to the guest room. I lay there in the dark, on the unfamiliar mattress, staring at the ceiling. My gut was screaming. Something wasn't right. But still, 8 years together doesn't just vanish. You don't want to believe the worst. You want to believe your partner, your wife, is just overwhelmed. That she needs time. That maybe, just maybe she's right. Maybe I had been too focused on providing, too wrapped up in the business, and not enough on connecting with her. I wanted to believe that this was something we could fix. I just didn't know yet that there was nothing to fix. The foundation had already cracked. 2 days went by in this strange, silent standoff. Jenna barely spoke to me. Didn't bother to get up with Lana in the mornings anymore. Too tired, she'd mumble from under the covers. So I started setting my alarm even earlier, handling the morning routine: solo diaper change, breakfast, getting her dressed before heading out. I started dropping Lana off at my mom's place on the way to the site. Mom was more than happy to watch her granddaughter, and honestly, it was a relief knowing Lana was with someone who cared. Every night when I came home, Jenna was headed out to a girls' night, a yoga class, or some vague self-care thing. I didn't ask questions. I just took notes. Then on the 3rd day, during my lunch break, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my buddy Ryan. "Dude, call me ASAP. It's about Jenna." I felt the bottom drop out of my stomach. I walked off the site and climbed into my truck, my hands already dialing before I could second-guess it. "Ryan, what's going on?" He sounded hesitant. "Look, man, I didn't want to get involved. This ain't my business. But this isn't right. Just tell me, man." "Okay, Tara, my girlfriend, she's in this online gaming group with Jenna. Some role-playing thing. Discord server. They've been in it for a while now." I sat there, frozen. I had no idea Jenna was even into that stuff. "Tara's been watching Jenna overshare about your marriage for weeks now," he continued, voice low. My stomach turned. "Oversharing? What do you mean?" "She's been ranting about you, saying you're emotionally unavailable, that you don't meet her needs, that all you do is work, and that you guys haven't had a meaningful conversation in months." I swallowed hard. My mind went back to the nights I tried to talk about Lana, about the house, about the future, and got nothing but or silence in return while she stared at her phone. "And there's this dude in the group," Ryan went on. "Calls himself Eric." I didn't breathe. "Tara says Jenna has been private messaging him constantly, like staying up till 3 in the morning, talking to this guy." That explained why Jenna was suddenly too tired in the mornings. I gripped the phone tighter. "Has Tara seen their private chats?" I asked, already knowing I wasn't going to like the answer. Ryan hesitated. "Not all of them, but enough." I waited. "She said Jenna was bragging in the group chat yesterday. Told everyone how she dropped the 'I need a break' line on you and how you just accepted it like some kind of emotional robot." He paused. "Said she always knew you were like that." I felt my jaw clench. Ryan added, "She said that Eric guy actually listens to her." I didn't say much after that. Just thanked Ryan for the heads up and ended the call. Then I sat in my truck for a good 20 minutes, just staring through the windshield at the dirt and gravel of the job site, my coffee going cold in the cup holder. The pieces were falling into place: click, click, click. The sudden demand for space. The frequent girls' nights that didn't involve any actual girls. The constant texting, the way she'd take her phone into the bathroom like it was an oxygen tank. That night, Jenna was in the shower again. Her new routine of hour-long showers with the door locked, the Bluetooth speaker blaring some indie playlist, and most telling her phone always clutched tightly in her hand. I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked her Discord. Her laptop was sitting on the kitchen counter, lid open, logged in. She hadn't even bothered to close it. My hands were shaking as I sat down and clicked through. What I saw made me physically sick. There they were, her and Eric. The unemployed, 29-year-old philosopher poet from Oregon. Dozens upon dozens of messages. Explicit messages. Photos. Videos. Things I didn't know existed. She told him how intellectually stimulating he was. Compared to me, I was just a construction guy, apparently. A blue-collar brute who could only swing a hammer, despite running a business that employed 6 people and kept our entire lifestyle afloat. She said she felt seen by Eric. Truly seen. After a few weeks of chatting online. And there were the critiques, sharp and detailed, about our sex life. She wrote about how I only wanted physical connection with no emotional intimacy. As if the countless nights I tried to hold her, talk to her, love her meant nothing. As if she hadn't shut me down over and over. She mocked me, openly, shared things about me I had told her in confidence. Things I'd never shared with anyone. My insecurities, my fears, my body. The worst part? From what I could gather, this savior of hers was jobless, living in his mom's basement in Oregon, and had never been in a real relationship in his life. But he was a free spirit, and that apparently made him a better man than I was. He wrote god-awful poetry, long, melodramatic monologues about the moon and fate, and longing, and Jenna fawned over every line like he was the next Shakespeare. They were already making plans for her to visit him. She was actually discussing, in detail, how much child support and alimony she could get out of me. Enough to start a new life with him. There was even talk about Lana, how she'd adjust once everything was settled. I didn't make a sound. I took screenshots of everything, every disgusting word, emailed them to myself. Then I closed the laptop exactly as I found it. I felt hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides with a rusty spoon and left nothing but ache behind. When Jenna finally stepped out of the bathroom, wrapped in her robe, phone clutched in hand like it was an extension of herself, I was sitting at the edge of the bed. I looked up at her. The words came out before I had a chance to second-guess them. "So who's Eric?" My voice didn't shake. I was almost surprised at how calm it sounded. She froze. Her face went through about 5 expressions in 2 seconds: shock, fear, anger, calculation, and finally, indignation. "You went through my private conversations?" she shrieked, stepping back like I'd struck her, pressing the phone to her chest like I was about to rip it from her hands. "How dare you invade my privacy like that?" I stood slowly, not rising to her volume. "Your laptop was open, Jenna. It wasn't exactly Fort Knox." She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. "Answer the question. Who's Eric? And why are you planning to take my daughter across the country to live with him?" Her eyes darted away. "It's not like that," she muttered. "He's just a friend. Someone who actually listens to me. Unlike you." I clenched my fists at my sides. "A friend who gets naked photos? Who you plan future custody arrangements with?" I shook my head. "Unbelievable." She squared her shoulders, suddenly defiant. "If you were meeting my emotional needs, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere. This is your fault." That hit me like a slap. I stared at her in disbelief. "You really gonna do that? Pin this on me?" She folded her arms. "You never get it. You never hear me." I let out a bitter laugh. "Let me remind you, Jenna, who pays for that phone you're clutching? The internet you used to flirt with Eric? The roof over your head? The food in the fridge? The weekly spa days and the help that comes 3 times a week so you can rest while I bust but keeping this life going." Her eyes narrowed. "Oh, so now you're going to be financially abusive?" she snapped. "Throw it in my face that you make all the money." I blinked. "That's not what I said." "That's exactly what you're doing," she hissed. "And that's why I need someone like Eric. He values me for me, not as some damn trophy wife." I almost laughed. I couldn't help it. Trophy wife. I looked her up and down, not in judgment, but in raw disbelief. "Jenna, when's the last time you even put on real clothes for me? Makeup? Hell, even a smile when I walked in the door after a 12-hour day?" Her jaw clenched. "I'm going to ask you one more time," I said, my voice even though every nerve in me wanted to explode. "Are you having an affair with this guy? Emotional or otherwise?" She rolled her eyes like I was a child. "You can't have an affair with someone you've never met in person," she said slowly, like she was explaining algebra to a toddler. "And even if I was, it would be because you drove me to it with your emotional neglect." There it was. The non-denial. The blame-shifting. I felt something inside me shift. Click into place. Whatever part of me had been hoping this was salvageable died in that moment. "I'm sleeping in the guest room until we figure this out," I said, turning to leave the room. "Fine," she shot back. "Run away from the conversation just like you always do." As I walked away, she called after me shrill, defiant, "This is why our marriage is failing." I didn't take the bait. I didn't even slow down. I just closed the guest room door behind me, sat on the bed, and stared up at the ceiling like it might have some kind of answer. My mind spun in circles, replaying the last few months on a loop. How had I missed the signs? Was I really that absent? Or was Jenna rewriting our entire history to justify where she was now? No, I knew who I was. I knew what I'd done and sacrificed for this family. One thing became clear through the static in my head. I wasn't going to be played for a fool. If Jenna wanted a break to explore things with Shakespeare, the basement-dwelling soulmate, she could have it. But not on her terms. The next morning, still dark outside at 4:30 a.m., I got up quietly. She was still asleep, curled around her phone like it was a second pillow. I got dressed, went into Lana's room, and gently lifted her from her crib. She stirred but didn't cry. I whispered soft reassurances to her, kissed her forehead, and bundled her into the car. My mom answered the door in her robe, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Roland? Everything okay? I didn't say much, just enough for her to understand this wasn't a casual visit. It's serious, Mom. I need to take care of a few things today. Can Lana stay with you? She looked at me for a moment, really looked, and then nodded. Of course. Don't worry about a thing. You do what you need to do. God bless her. She didn't pry. Didn't make me say it out loud. Just took her granddaughter in her arms and whispered, "You're safe with Nana." Instead of heading to the job site like usual, I went straight to my office. I sat at my desk and made 3 calls. First was to Dave, my lawyer buddy, who handled all my contracts. When I told him the situation, he didn't waste time sugarcoating. "Roland, buddy," he said, "you need to protect yourself and Lana. Now, Jenna's already shown she's willing to put her wants above her daughter's needs." Second call was to my bank. I scheduled an appointment for that afternoon. Third was to a security company one of my clients had recommended. They picked up on the first ring, and I told them I needed a full install common areas, nothing invasive, all above board. I wasn't trying to spy. I just needed evidence in case this blew up. Dave had been clear. Document everything, he'd said. Every screenshot, every cent spent supporting her lifestyle, every hour you worked while she was staying up all night with her online boyfriend. Courts favor the mother, usually, but if you can show she's uninvolved and you're the stable parent, you've got a real shot at primary custody. That hit me hard, because it wasn't just about me anymore, it was about Lana. I had the cameras installed the next day. Legal and by the book after all, the house was in my name. When I told Jenna, I just said, it's for security. With the way the world is, it's smart to have some coverage. She barely looked up from her phone, rolled her eyes. Whatever, she mumbled, thumbs still tapping away. At the bank, I opened a separate account in my name only. I didn't drain anything, just moved over a manageable amount. Not enough to trigger red flags. Just enough to make sure I had a cushion if things went south fast. I pulled up our financial records from the past year, bank statements, credit card bills, receipts. Everything. The yoga retreats. The therapy sessions she bailed on. The overpriced juicer she used for 2 weeks. The new wardrobe she claimed she needed to feel like herself again. All of it funded by me. All of it under the banner of Jenna finding herself. I printed and filed them. Then I started scaling back at work. Not by a lot, just enough. I cut my 12-hour days down to 9 or 10, handed more over to Tim, my foreman. He's sharp and I trust him. It let me show up more at home, where it counted. I picked Lana up earlier, did the drop-offs at my mom's when needed. I wanted it documented. I wasn't just a paycheck, I was a father. An involved one. Jenna didn't even seem to notice. She was sleeping until 10, shuffling out in pajamas with her phone in hand, and spending half the day FaceTiming or texting. The fridge was regularly empty. I started doing the grocery runs. It was always me bathing Lana, feeding her, playing with her. I took her to her pediatrician appointments Jenna forgot about twice. Forgot. Meanwhile, I kept a detailed record. Wrote it down every night. What I did, what Jenna didn't do, timestamps, notes. If this ever went to court, I wanted a picture that couldn't be argued with. The saddest part? Lana would toddle up to her mom, arms lifted, saying, "Mama," and Jenna, still laughing into her FaceTime with Eric, would just pat her on the head and mumble, "Go play, sweetheart." It burned. One night, I was passing through the kitchen and heard her say to her phone, "Once I figure out the logistics, I can come visit you." Roland is so clueless. He thinks this break is temporary. He's still sleeping in the guest room like a good little boy. That was it. That was the moment it all crystallized. This wasn't salvageable. I wasn't going to be her backup plan. I wasn't her ATM while she tried out life with discount Shakespeare. I scheduled consultations with 3 divorce attorneys, all in different parts of town. I didn't want her hearing about any of it from someone's cousin. Finally landed on Sarah Sharp, straightforward, and specialized in father's rights. The second I walked into her office, I knew she was the one. I laid everything out. Photos, screenshots, logs, financials. I've been keeping records, I told her. I didn't want to go into this blind. She flipped through the binder I'd prepared, nodding. "You've done your homework, Roland. Most guys don't think ahead, they react. You're not reacting. You're building a case. And that's going to make all the difference." We started strategizing quietly, carefully. To round it out, I also started therapy. Not because I thought it would save our marriage, it was already dead, but because I needed it documented. I needed someone professional to say, "This man is working on himself." And honestly, it helped. Talking through the mess, the betrayal, the gaslighting, it helped clear my head. Dr. Chin didn't pull punches. After our third session, she leaned forward and said, "Roland, from what you've described, Jenna is showing classic signs of someone in the affair fog. She's rewriting your marital history to justify her actions. She's compartmentalizing her role as a mother to pursue this new excitement," Dr. Chin said calmly. "And she's shifting the blame onto you to avoid accountability for her choices." So what do? I asked. Continue documenting. Don't engage in arguments. And prepare yourself for the possibility that she's not coming back from this fog anytime soon, if ever. It hurt to hear. I sat there, staring at the floor of her office, nodding slowly. But deep down, I knew he was right. The woman I married? She was gone. Or maybe she'd never really existed in the first place. Maybe this was always who she was, and the mask had just finally slipped. Either way, my priority was clear: protect myself and protect Lana from whatever storm was coming. As the weeks passed, Jenna's behavior grew worse. More entitled, more rude. It was like every day she peeled back another layer of the person I thought I knew, revealing someone colder, lazier, and crueler than I could have imagined. One Sunday, my only full day off, she walked into the kitchen while I was washing Lana's sippy cups and handed me a list. A literal list. Of chores. "I'm too emotionally drained to handle this today," she said, voice flat like she was reading off a script. "I've been talking to my life coach." I glanced up. "You mean that woman from Discord?" She ignored me. "And she says I need to prioritize my self-care. As the male partner who's emotionally stunted, you should be stepping up more around here." I dried my hands and took the list from her. Mow the lawn. Fix the garage door. Clean the gutters. Do all the laundry, including her delicates. Prep her meals for the week. I scanned it again. Nothing for Lana. Not a single bullet point mentioning our daughter. I let out a short laugh and handed it back. "I'll handle my half of the parenting and household responsibilities just like I always have," I said evenly. "But I'm not your servant." That set her off. She exploded into this tirade about the mental load of being a mother, how I couldn't possibly understand what it was like because of my male privilege. Meanwhile, our daughter was sitting happily in the playpen I'd set up that morning, munching on a banana and stacking plastic cups while I made her breakfast. "What mental load, Jenna?" I asked, trying to keep calm. "I'm handling all of Lana's doctor appointments, doing most of the cooking and shopping, still putting in 50 hours a week at work." "What exactly are you doing that's so mentally taxing?" "You just don't get it," she screamed, throwing up her hands and storming off to video chat with Eric. Again, the irony was suffocating. The security cameras I had installed, for our safety, painted a pretty clear picture. Jenna spent maybe 2 or 3 hours a day actually engaging with Lana. The rest? Screen time. Either Lana staring at a tablet or Jenna glued to her phone, giggling into it while on FaceTime with the man-child in Oregon. She even started nitpicking how I parented. "You're too rough when you play with her," she snapped one evening as I tossed Lana gently into the air and caught her. Lana burst into one of those pure, belly-deep giggles that made everything else melt away. She giggled uncontrollably. "My work, it's just construction. Not rocket science," she'd said once, waving her hand dismissively during a fight. "Just construction. Never mind that my just construction business paid every bill she racked up, kept the roof over our heads, put food on the table, covered her therapy, the gym membership she stopped using, and the overpriced life coach telling her she was a queen trapped in the wrong fairy tale. And don't get me started on the gym. So vain," she muttered one night when I came back from a workout. "You should be helping me instead of obsessing over your muscles." "Helping with what, Jenna?" I asked. She never had an answer. Because I was already doing everything: cooking, doctor visits, work, playtime, shopping. The mental gymnastics she did to paint herself as the overworked martyr were Olympic level. This was the same woman who once told me my work ethic and strength were what attracted her in the first place. Now, she twisted them into flaws. As if being a man who could frame a house, carry heavy loads, and stay until the job was done made me some outdated caveman. Then came the notebook. I came into the kitchen one afternoon to make lunch for Lana while Jenna was in the bathroom. Her notebook lay open on the counter. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But after everything, after the lies, the gaslighting, the betrayal, I felt justified. It was a journaling prompt. Some crap her life coach had given her. 2 columns. Ideal partner traits versus current reality. Under ideal, she had scribbled: intellectually stimulating, creative and sensitive, understands my emotional needs without me having to explain, prioritizes quality time over material things, sees me as an equal, not a mother-wife role, spiritual connection. I swallowed hard and read the other side. Under current reality, it said clearly about me. Only talks about work and practical matters. No creative hobbies or interests. Emotionally unavailable. Doesn't understand deeper needs. Thinks providing financially is enough. Sees me primarily as mother of his child. No spiritual dimension. I stared at it, stunned. What world was she living in? I'd taken up woodworking years ago. Half the furniture in this house was made by my hands. I built Lana's crib myself. I had tried over and over to talk about things outside of work. I'd planned dates she flaked on. I made efforts. Real ones. But those didn't fit the narrative. Jenna had built a fictional version of me, this cardboard cutout of a cold, one-dimensional man, to justify her actions. In her head, I wasn't the guy she had shared 8 years with, raised a child with, built a home with. I was just the villain now, the emotionally stunted husband, the obstacle between her and her spiritual connection. She walked back into the kitchen then and froze when she saw the notebook in my hands. Seriously, she snapped. You're going through my private thoughts now? This is exactly why I'm unhappy. You have no respect for my boundaries. I closed the notebook slowly and looked at her. Respect works both ways, Jenna, I said quietly. You've got me painted as some emotionless robot, but that's not reality. That's the story you're telling yourself to feel better about what you're doing. You don't know anything about what I'm feeling. You never have. Jenna spat before turning away. I didn't bother to respond. There was no point arguing with someone rewriting history to fit her own narrative. Instead, I grabbed Lana's hand and took her to the park, letting her toddle around the playground while I sat on a bench, trying to piece together how the woman I married became this stranger living under my roof. That night, she didn't come home until after 11. She said she'd been with friends, but our phones showed her location had been parked outside a Starbucks for 4 hours, most likely on the phone with Eric. She didn't ask about Lana, didn't check if she was okay, just went straight to the shower, phone in hand like it was her lifeline. It was like watching someone I loved turn into someone I didn't recognize, and there was nothing I could do about it. 4 weeks into her break, I came home from the gym and saw the credit card statement. $600 on new clothes ordered by Jenna. I confronted her. I deserve to feel good about myself, she said, eyes sharp. Your constant criticism is why I needed this break. Too tired to argue. I just nodded, went upstairs to shower, and spent some quality time with Lana. She was thrilled to show me she could stack blocks higher than before. Later that night, Jenna left her laptop open when she went to take a bath. A message popped up from Eric. Curiosity got the better of me. I looked. They were openly mocking me. She called me desperate and pathetic for still trying to fix things, by which she meant providing for the family and taking care of Lana. She laughed about my therapy, calling it hilarious that I thought I could change. He's so clueless, she wrote. Then came the kicker. Once I figure out child support and alimony, I can come see you. His business did really well last year, so I should get a nice payout. I've been researching Oregon law is better for mothers. I'll file once I'm there with Lana. He'll have to pay for us to live near you. Something inside me snapped, not in a rage, but a moment of perfect clarity. I took pictures of the conversation and closed her laptop. She came out of the bathroom wrapped in the plush robe I'd gotten her for Christmas. I was sitting calmly at the kitchen island. Good bath? I asked quietly, trying to keep my calm steady. Good bath. Fine, she said, eyes narrowing, clearly suspicious of my calm demeanor. So I leaned in, keeping my voice even. I've been thinking about this break you wanted, and I think you're right, we do need to make some changes. Her eyes lit up for a moment, probably expecting some grand gesture, a plea to patch things up. But I wasn't done. I think it's time we stop pretending. You want to be with Eric? Then go be with him. You have until the end of the month to move out. Her expression shifted, fast shock, then anger. Move out. This is my house too. And Lana stays with me. I met her glare without flinching. Actually, this house is solely in my name. I bought it before we were married. Remember? I have the deed to prove it. And as for Lana, I said, voice cold, we'll let the courts decide who provides the more stable home environment. She pulled out her trump card, voice shaking but fierce. No judge will take a child from her mother. I'll get full custody, and you'll be lucky to see her every other weekend. I smiled, then a slow, deliberate smile that seemed to unsettle her more than any shouting would have. You'd be surprised what judges think about mothers who neglect their children to have online affairs. I've documented everything, Jenna. Everything. For the first time, I saw fear flicker in her eyes, but she quickly hardened back into defiance. You're bluffing. You don't have anything. I pulled out my phone and opened my email, showing her one of the screenshots her discussing with Eric how she planned to minimize my parenting time so they could start fresh in Oregon. There's plenty more where that came from, I said, including security footage of you ignoring Lana's crying because you were too busy sexing. She gasped, voice sharp. How do you think a family court judge will view that? You've been spying on me in my own home. My home, I corrected firmly. And yes, I installed security cameras after finding out my wife was planning to take my daughter across the country to live with some guy she met online. It's perfectly legal, and it'll be very interesting viewing for the custody evaluator. She shifted tactics, her voice softening as she reached out for my arm. Roland, come on. We can work this out. I was just blowing off steam with Eric. You know you and Lana are my world. I gently removed her hand. Save it, Jenna. I've seen the real you now, and honestly, I don't like her very much. She burst into tears, but I wasn't fooled. I'd seen enough of her acting to know those tears were as fake as her sudden claims of devotion. "What do you want from me?" she sobbed. "I want you to leave. Start your new life with Eric or whoever," I said firmly. "But Lana stays here in her home, with a parent who puts her needs first. You can't do this to me. I'll fight you. I'll tell everyone what a controlling monster you are." "Go ahead," I told her. "I've got the receipts, as the kids say. Every neglectful moment, every plan to use me for money, every lie you've told. Your choice if you want all that made public in court." She stormed off, slamming the bedroom door behind her. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in weeks. The weight of indecision finally lifted from my shoulders. The next few weeks were a hurricane of her alternating between threats and tears. One day she'd scream that she'd take me for everything I had. The next, she'd sob about how she still loved me and that Eric was just a mistake. I stayed calm through it all, which only infuriated her more. "Why aren't you fighting for me?" she demanded once. "Because you're not worth fighting for anymore," I replied simply. The woman I loved wouldn't have done any of this. She tried turning friends against me with wild stories about emotional abuse and controlling behavior. Most saw through it, especially once I calmly showed them the evidence of what had really been happening. Her parents even called me, apologizing for her behavior after she tried to spin some victim narrative to them. "We raised her better than this," her father said, genuine confusion in his voice. "I don't know what's gotten into her, but we want you to know we support you and Lana." True to my word, I filed for divorce and petitioned for primary custody of Lana. Jenna was stunned when my lawyer presented the evidence of her neglect security footage showing her ignoring Lana's cries while on calls with Eric, screenshots of her telling him she couldn't wait to be free of mom duties, texts complaining about how motherhood was ruining her life. The judge was particularly unimpressed when my lawyer laid out Jenna's plans to uproot Lana and move across the country to be with a man she had never even met in person. "Mrs. Harris," the judge said, peering over his glasses, "this court's primary concern is the well-being of the minor child. Your communications suggest a concerning lack of priority for your daughter's stability and emotional needs." Jenna tried to argue that she had been suffering from postpartum depression and that I hadn't been supportive. But the timeline didn't add up. Lana was over a year old when the affair started, and there was plenty of evidence showing how I had stepped up to support her parenting while she was checked out emotionally. In the end, the judge awarded me primary physical custody of Lana. Jenna was granted supervised visitation only after she could prove she was stable and serious about being a parent again. There was no alimony. Our marriage hadn't lasted long, and she was capable of working. Child support from her would be determined once she found a job. The day Jenna had to move out, reality finally hit her. Eric, the so-called Prince Charming, had been strangely quiet as the divorce proceedings got underway. His multiple daily messages dwindled down to occasional check-ins. Turns out, he'd ghosted her once he realized she wasn't going to bring in a fat divorce settlement to fund his gaming lifestyle. She stood in the living room, looking lost among the few boxes of personal things she was taking with her. I told her she could have whatever she wanted from the house, but she didn't seem interested in anything practical. "Roland, please," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "I made a horrible mistake. I was depressed after having Lana and just got lost. We can fix this. I'll go to therapy. I'll delete all my accounts. I'll be the wife you deserve." "There's nothing to fix, Jenna," I said quietly but firmly. "I deserve someone who sees my hard work as an expression of love, not something to exploit. Lana deserves a mother who values her more than online attention." She broke down, crying like a child. "But where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? Your parents said you can stay with them until you find a job," I replied. "As for what you do next, that's up to you. For the first time in years, your choices are your own. So is the responsibility for them." She left that day with her parents, who came to help her move. Both of them watched me with sad, apologetic eyes as they loaded her things into their SUV. I felt no joy in her distress, only a hollow relief that the worst was finally over. 2 months later, Jenna called me in tears. I almost didn't recognize her voice. She sounded broken. "Roland," she sobbed, "my fantasy romance turned into a nightmare." She told me she had begged her parents for a loan to get a plane ticket and had actually flown out to meet Eric. She had drained the small savings account she'd kept, mostly money I had given her for emergencies. "Against all my warnings and your parents' pleas, I was convinced he was my soulmate," she said. "He wasn't who he said he was," she broke down again. "As soon as I got there, he treated me like some woman he'd met online. He took the rest of my money, nearly $3,000, saying we needed it for our place, then disappeared for days. He came back drunk. When I confronted him, he laughed in my face, said I was just a desperate housewife he'd been playing for kicks, told all his friends I was easy and pathetic. Jenna had found a small apartment back here, but couldn't afford the rent after the first month. Eric had blocked her everywhere after bleeding her dry. The Discord friends who had once been her support vanished when she needed real help instead of just validation. She couldn't find a job that paid enough after her long employment gap. I made the biggest mistake of my life, she wept. I threw away everything good for a complete lie. Please, Roland, I know I don't deserve it, but can we try again? For Lana, for us? I'll do anything to make it right. I miss our family. I miss you. Part of me felt sorry for her, but a bigger part remembered how she'd planned to use me, mock me, and take my daughter away. I'll help you find resources, I said finally. For Lana's sake, I need her mother to be stable. But that's it. You made your choice, and actions have consequences. You can't mean that, she whispered. After everything we've been through. That's just it, Jenna. We've been through hell, but you're the one who dragged us there. I'm finally finding peace. Lana is thriving now. I won't risk that again. When Jenna broke down completely, despite everything, I felt a pang of the old affection, but I knew better now. Her tears had always been her most effective weapon. I can recommend some job placement services, I said, keeping my voice gentle but firm. And I know an apartment complex that has reasonable rents. But that's as far as my help goes. She looked at me, desperation in her eyes. Can I at least see Lana more? The supervised visits, they're so clinical. I shook my head slowly. Let's see how you do establishing stability first. Lana needs consistency, not someone who might disappear again when the next Eric comes along. That hit her hard, and I saw the fight drain from her face. It needed to be said. She had shown me exactly who she was, and I believed her. Today, I have my daughter 80% of the time. I've scaled back work to spend more quality time with her, trusting my foreman Tim with more responsibility. I even made him a junior partner. I converted the home office into an epic playroom for Lana, with a reading nook, an art station, and enough stuffed animals to start a small zoo. Jenna is slowly getting her act together, going to therapy, and working a retail job. She sees Lana regularly now, but knows she has to earn back trust. Our exchanges are civil, sometimes even friendly, but there's a wall between us that will never come down. She made sure of that. As for me, I'm dating a pediatric nurse named Celia. I met her at one of Lana's checkups. She thinks my dedication to my daughter and my work ethic are attractive, not things to mock. Celia appreciates the life I've built instead of comparing it to Instagram fantasies. She actually asks about my day and listens to the answer even when it's just about concrete mixtures or zoning permits. The first time Celia came over for dinner and saw my woodworking shop in the garage, she asked thoughtful questions about the coffee table I was making. Jenna had called that same hobby boring and a waste of time when we were together. Sometimes the best revenge isn't making someone suffer. It's building a better life while they realize what they threw away. I dodged a bullet. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.